Right. Right.
Do you want me to admit those things? Is that oh no? Going to get me in the car. I'm going to Miami, running through Nathan's, trying to pick up food, haven't eaten yet. All the fun things. I'm so excited to hear this stuff. Things. I feel like even though I'm talking about that, I don't know why I feel like it's you're on the retreat, weren't you? Oh, you could really for me. Okay, you might just this off. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
So much better.
Yay, we're on my phone versus my car. Today's the day. We are here. We're gonna thrive. All things branding. If I do get to my hotel in time, then I will transition over to my computer. But for now, we're just gonna use the phone. It's gonna be great. But yay, I'm excited. You guys know how this goes. Anything for what are you celebrating? What have you been learning this week? And then what do you need support on? Let's freaking run it. Who wants to go first?
I'll go because I am limited in time.
Okay.
Hello. Okay.
Hi.
So, hi. Okay, so what I'm celebrating, what am I celebrating? I'm celebrating just still being like the way that I'm building my business right now, the way that things are starting to form and like the direction I'm going in, very, very much celebrating all of that. What I am learning is I guess the insides of my business, like the way that the pillars, like still developing the pillars and all of that, but that still kind of goes into what I need help on because it's basically I'm still working on it. And I think that's what I wanted to put on into school is that yes, I have a direction, but I still feel like I am like all over the place right now with like doing the little bits and pieces. Like I know that you were like, throwing that water hose on us, but now that we have more time and it's just like, okay, and how can I concentrate into like not being all over the place, not like spinning, having all these spinning plates around me and like honing in like, okay, what can I start working on now? Is it like honing in on my branding still, or do I and like to help me with creating the pillars, to help me with creating like the specific content that I need to go in because I feel like I'm making content, but it's just like it doesn't feel it's like I'm reacting instead of being like ahead of it at the same time. So yeah, I
That's
need help
really
on
good.
that.
That's a really, really good self-awareness. And so when we're looking at things, your content can kind of feel like, I don't know what direction this is going if you don't know where you're pointing it. And so this is where we have to sit down and go, what is that one tangible result you are working to give your clients, right? Your community, the people that you're working with, things like that. I know we help the multifaceted woman. I know through our stuff, we help with everything, but there has to be one thing that you become known for. And so what do you feel is that one thing?
I think at this point, the one thing that I really am concentrating and honing in on is the mindset work of when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to health. When I say the mindset, what I'm talking mostly about right now that I've like really been honing in on is dropping the perfectionism of like not thinking that being perfect is the same thing as consistency. Also the idea of like building trust in yourself that you can do this. So a lot of it has just been a lot of mindset, and I like in the sprinkles of nutrition here and there, because I still want people to like know me as like, okay, she can help me with nutrition, but there's also
Yeah.
the foundation of like building that mindset as well.
Yeah. And so when you're thinking of these things, of giving them just ease, right? When it comes to nutrition versus perfectionism, what problem does that solve for your person?
Mm. Um, oh, shit. Okay. Uh, yeah, it's basically being able to like reach that thick fatty goal, right? Of either like if they're trying to lean out, that's what it is. It's like leaning out, still embracing your curves, still maintaining your curves, and like building the body that you want is what it like. That is the main goal, because again, in my head, I'm just like, if I'm working with a nutrition coach, somebody who's like here to help me with my nutrition and like mindset and all of that, it's because I'm trying to change my body is what it is. But how can I think the point, or the main mission for me is like, how can you change your body from a place of compassion and love?
That's your tagline. How to change your body from a place of compassion and love. And so figuring out how to do that
Wow.
and grab the part of that to simplify it, right? Because at the end of the day, then that means that your people, the biggest issue that they're having is they probably tried every diet. It's very restrictive. They can't have summer holidays. They can't have they can't have especially moving into the holiday season, like you struggle with perfectionism. You can't have certain types of foods. Like it just, you're not even present because you're so wrapped up in like wanting to get it perfect, because you know, as soon as you slip, you get inflamed, you can't stop the cravings, you lose yourself, and then you just can't fit into any of your clothes anymore. Like it's that type of thing. So it's your thing is simplifying it and making it so it's not perfection, and you're able to still, have the body you want without losing your life, and still doing these things and embracing that. And that's the thing that once you figure out, you're going to feel like everything is just spiraling. Like mindset is great, but what is the mindset shift helping them achieve, right? Like at the core, I give this example all the time. At the core, my work with everyone is self-worth work. That's all this is, right? I can give you all the strategies in the world, but really the deep work is, do you think you're worthy of it? My work is to show you how to do that, to build that confidence, and to do it. The way that I do that is dating and marketing. That's how I do it, right? But if I only spoke about mindset, you guys wouldn't have jumped into this. You want something tangible as a result, right? Use yourself as your own client markets. You need something tangible. And so when you're talking about all these things with your community and like the thick baddie goal, it's like, what tangibly is that thick baddie goal? And that's going to be where, when I'm talking about funnels and I'm talking about Q1 and Q4, it's like, that's going to be so easy, because you're like, this is leading to my core offer. This is what this is. You guys are seeing it in my content now, is like everything is funnels based, because I'm going to be selling a funnels program in Q1 next year. And I'm going to be, funneling that. And then it funnels into this membership. And so it's different things in that way. And so it's you have to know the overarching theme and the overarching outcome of what you're going to help your clients achieve, and then everything else will feel more streamlined. But if you're feeling lost in that, you have to find the one result people hire you for.
Okay, so then you're mentioning that the tagline, right? Changing your body, but from a place of compassion and love, and then the end, like figuring out what that thick, and then so figuring out that thick baddie goal. And I know that I posted some things about like the tangibleness of like the so that you can, and I posted it on there. And it's just like, okay, then how can I take all this information now and like put it together, and like, yeah, then if I have all this information now, where can I go from here now?
Okay. So you have all the information, you have all the things, you figure out, yes, the tagline, yes, the outcome. Like you can even get more specific than that about embracing the change in your body. Like, what type of change? Is it losing X amount of weight? Is it leaning out and finally building muscle mass? Is it, really, really, the more specific you can get, the more you sell. That's what we're looking for. It's in the micro that people buy nowadays, like that really, really niche part. So once you have that, then you'll be able to do the 0.5 mile ahead with your community. So whether that's a 5-day challenge, I just workshop one with Julia. She's doing a 21-day challenge. Eddie is doing a 21-day challenge. Like something you can bring people in on, where it's like you're hitting on one part of the method that you teach people on. For example, you guys see me do this in Bolder Branding Bootcamp, right? Which sells the mastermind that a lot of you jumped into. Bolder Branding Bootcamp, I highlighted the mindset switch I need you guys to adopt. You are the creative director of your business. And then I helped you identify all these different parts that you're probably at in your business to help you identify this. And then I walked you through my modalities called the BOLD method. And I explained these things and I went through these things, and that was a freebie, right? So it's curating this freebie for the 0.5 mile ahead, basically mindset switch people have to adopt, where like, for me, if I was in your position, for example, something I would do is realize, like, embracing your curves during the holiday season, or, figuring out how to really eat in a way that's complementary without starving yourself during the holiday season, so you can embrace the curves that you have, like something around that line. And like having a challenge or having a masterclass or having like some type of momentum party is what I would do. And then I would, at the end of that, that's when I would be selling them into a consultation call, like, hey, if you're at this is just one part of the puzzle that I helped you fix, because that's what a freebie is. And don't worry, guys, I am creating a training that is teaching you how to make an irresistible free offer. So I already know this is part that like I need to fill in the gap for you guys, is like creating this freebie. And so once you create this freebie, you sell them into a consultation call with you, and then you sell them and invite them into whatever your program is, 3 6 months. Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And it's funny because like I posted this on my stories of like, hey, would you guys be interested if I do a master class about, how not to overeat and like, how to handle the holidays? I didn't have anybody like interested, but in my head I'm just like, I should just still do it. Just to see, just fuck around and find out.
Yeah, and it's okay. It's like, and then you can put other things on your polls, right? Is just sitting here being like, what topics would you guys have seen me do this. If you're engaged in my stories, I did this. I said, what topics are you interested for the holiday season? It's like dating, content, marketing. And then a lot of the marketing stuff took off. So I was like, okay, what part of marketing? Is it messaging? Is it conversion? Is it automation and funnels? Blah, blah, blah. Automation and funnels went off. So guess what program I created? Automation and funnels, because I just kept asking questions to you guys, being like, I'm gonna teach you all it anyways. It's just which one you want right now. Like, let me see where you guys are at versus telling you what I think it is, right? If they didn't respond to that, I wouldn't necessarily take that as market research. They don't want that right now. So sit there and be like, okay, so what do you want? And don't just ask that question. You're the leader. You have to ask the right questions of the ideas you're having and put them in poll form, not like yes, no, whatever, but like, which one applies to you? What stage of your health journey are you at? What are you most insecure about when it comes to being a thick baddie? Like, getting to know your audience, and then you'll start to think of like, okay, what gap can I bridge for them? What can I create that's actually going to benefit them right now, and start to get to know them in this way versus like what you think you have an audience. Ask them. Ask them where they're stuck, what they're thinking of, what words apply to them, what words are they using in DMs or in conversation with you. That's your content. Like, it's right in front of you. It's just sitting there being like, okay, they didn't answer that poll. That means they're not interested. Okay, so let's start to look at what will make them interested. Just keep polling them. Plus, it's good for the algorithm when you do that.
All right, it's just okay. Then I just have to keep thinking about the questions then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sit with, like, your homework is like to sit with, what do they get when they come to you, right? Like, there are so many different things you guys get from me, different tiers of my business, different elements of my business of what people get from me. Some people are getting somatic sessions where we're like going through deep fucking trauma. Like, you guys get branding and marketing. Like, we're doing very like over the arch things. We do mindset work sometimes here. We do relationship stuff. Like, there's so many different things. But because I know what the tangible outcome is for each and every thing that I offer, it's easy to sell. It's easy to create content. I don't feel scatterbrained with things. Like, it's very direct. And yes, I could say, and this is something I see a lot of you guys get tripped up on. You're like, well, I helped a whole woman. I'm like, of course you do. No one's saying you don't. But in this one chapter of your book, what's the outcome? Because if you spray everything, and you're like, well, I help you get fit, I help you find your man, I help you make money, I help you learn what nutrition is. And they're like, I just went to the Cheesecake Factory, as I'm literally sitting in front of a Cheesecake Factory. I just looked at that. I feel overwhelmed. Like, I don't even want to eat here because the menu's so fucking annoying. Like, it's that type of thing, like you hyperventilating versus like, I'm the leader. You have 3 options. These are them. This is the outcome for this offer, this offer, this offer. Which one you want? You guys are going to see me do that today because I'm opening up certain VIP tiers for a little like holiday thing. And so it's just like, be very direct with what your one-to-one is. It's not to say you can't touch on all the other things, but it's like, for one bundle for the next 3 months, someone works with you. What's the one tangible outcome that they're hiring you for to get? And then under that is your content mindset switches come from that, your modalities come from it, your methodologies, like all the things come from that. Does that make more sense?
It does. It's just okay. So just I guess the kind of what I'm overarching thing here is just concentrate on the one thing. What is the one thing that one outcome from here? And yeah, just concentrate on that.
Yeah. And like again, it could go through so many different waves. It's like, the thing I'm selling right now is, one, it's an all access pass. Like, you get access to everything, you get access to this, you get calls with me, you get all the things. Like, it's for the whole woman that is just like, she understands what things are. But then I also have the funnel machine. So someone that is literally just looking for me to come in and create their funnels with them. And that's going to take about 3 months realistically. So that's a certain one. And then I have another one, which is a content audit. That's not going to take me much time. That's just going to be one-off session with you where I go through your content, and it's going to be 2 weeks. It's very clear. It's very tangible. Here's the result that you're going to get. That's it. And so just think, okay, if I create a 3-month package, what's the one thing that she's going to get out of this? And then come and drop that in school, and we'll start to workshop that from there. And then with that one thing, we're going to start to have content, and we're going to start to have a freebie that we start to work around, whether that's a challenge, whether that's whatever. But like, use your audience, poll them, ask them, run them through your ideas. Like, I can answer only so much for you, but I'm not your target audience. Like, it's just like, so I can like think maybe what I think they think, but like, they're going to know better than anyone. So just ask them questions.
Gotcha. Okay, that sounds good. I think the next question I'll ask this later,
Yeah.
but I think it's just about audience too, because I feel like I don't have like a really big like audience, so sometimes it does feel hard of like, okay, what do people really want? But we can talk about that later.
I mean, I think that's a good conversation to have, where it's just like, if you don't have a hot audience, what the fuck do you do? This should be a training. This is good. Someone remind me that I said this. How to create a hot audience. One, it's really, really studying the audience you have. So say you have 2 people. You have 2 people. How involved in those 2 people's lives are you? How involved in people's lives, like surrounding yourself in that community, because that's your hot audience. Maybe it's not online, maybe it's in person, right? Like, before my business took off, the reason I know my audience so well when it came to dating and relationships is because I was in all these masterminds with all these very successful women, and I just shut the fuck up and listened. That's it. And so when they would say things that I was like, oh, that's your problem, I would just write it down. And I'd be like, that's my content, that's my thing. But like, you are in the season of making a lot of experiments. And like, if 2 people answered, 2 people answered, make it for 2 people and blow the fuck out of the water with it. And then you're going to learn and you're going to grow. This is why community events are very important, because you're going to hear what they have to say. And also looking at how to create hot audiences. Are you engaging in their social media? Are you keeping up with them? Are you doing certain things with them? Are you commenting on their posts? Thank you for grabbing that. Are you commenting on their posts? Are you also, do you have like people in your industry that are doing something that's like really similar to what you want to do, and just keeping up with their problems, like their hooks, their stories, their things, the things that they're helping their clients with? Like, they're doing the legwork for you, and you just kind of have to look at what they're doing, and you'll see, okay, here's a hook, here's a part that they're filling in the gap on. And so I don't know it yet, but this seems like kind of a hot audience. So can you just adopt from that so that you can start to source those stories a little bit more? Yeah.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And you're also doing the other thing where it's like, if I didn't have a hot audience, I would be live every week, multiple times a week. Like, I would just be doing things. I'd be in groups, I'd be in communities, I'd be networking my ass off. I'd be doing like, that's what I did do for several years. It's just like, I was so active online and just like got to know people so much. And like, like every mastermind I was in, I was got coffees with everyone, every single freaking person. Like I was just blowing it out of the water, like like it's just that's part of the game. Like to get to the top, I was actually talking about this. No, I'm okay, thank you. I was talking about this last night with my girlfriends of like there's to get to 1 million, what are like the 3 things that you need? It's sales, oh no, lost her. I'll keep going though. Sales, communication, and networking skills. And then the other side of that, how to then get to like 10 million is how to use those networking skills to help leverage the network, to leverage your network to get you to the next step. And so it's just those types of things. I think I just let her back in. There she is.
My computer died.
You're good. I'm good. But yeah, I would just get into the phase of, I was just kind of talking about the power of networking and just like making sure you're active in communities, doing coffees, meeting people. It seems like a lot at first, but that's kind of the beginning stages of stuff, is like to create a hot audience, you gotta be hot. You gotta be out there. You gotta be doing shit.
Yes, and I'm just like, because you're bringing that up, and I'm thinking of like, okay, where can I find my thick baddies, and what communities can I engage in so that I can get more information? Because I feel like sometimes that's the difficult part of being like, I can't get into their heads if I can't even find them first, and not even through social media, but where else can I go?
Yeah. They're definitely on social media, like Facebook groups, Instagram groups. Like if you go to anyone that is doing something similar to what you're doing on Instagram, stalk the shit out of the comment section on their posts. Like that is it. You just go to their followers, you start engaging in these people, you watch their stories, you send some flames, like you're active in these things, you pay attention. Like the reason I found so many of the places I hang out is I would just stalk some people on the internet that I wanted to be friends with, and I would see where they hang out and what conferences they went to, and I would go to them. And I would say, hi, I'm here, let's be friends. And then they became my friends. And so you just kind of get a little creepy,
I love it. Okay, I'm in my creeper mode now.
Yeah, you just got to be creepy. Like something that in the beginning stages, I think I see a lot of people do, myself included, I did this, is like we post and it's like we're waiting to get discovered. And it's like, that is no one's success story. It's, I got discovered because I was hustling my fucking ass off, not because I was just like showing up online and creating content. It's like everyone's doing that now. It's like I showed up, I created my network. I just kept getting out there. I kept building something. I kept being loud about something. I kept doing, like, it's always that, like, there's momentum that they built for themselves. And then they got discovered, and then it pops off, and then it's quote unquote overnight. Like that's how it was for me, as I was out in the world, just networking the shit out of my life. Like I was so isolated in Dallas because I didn't want to be there. And then as soon as I came to Florida, I was just networking. It gave me a new sense of life because I was pulling from sources around me, different storytelling, different things. That power that I was feeling in my life then went online. And then it really did just pop off 3 years later, over quote unquote overnight. But it's just go be of the world, and you'll start to hear people more of what their problem is about being a thick baddie, and like what is it that they're struggling with. Like, is it actually weight loss? Is it actually figuring out healthy ways of being? Is it actually leaning out? Like, what are the words that they're actually using? And that's going to be where your coaching comes in.
Thank you. Yes,
Yes,
thank you all for all of this.
Of course, keep me updated. Yay, who's next?
I'll go.
Hi.
Hi. I feel like my win is actually like getting back into like the swing of things, because I went to a retreat for like a whole week, and then it took me a whole week to recover afterwards. So I'm like, literally this week I just now feel ready to actually start diving back into stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm actually enjoying all of like everything you guys are just talking about, like feeling like I'm getting information, even though my stuff is different, but just the questions you're asking, it's starting to like pop off different things. And it's actually kind of making me like get excited to like reach out to people that I've pre-connected with to do podcast interviews and stuff like that, and just making those connections of like, hey, like let's solidify a time and actually like put effort into getting those actually going, because I put feelers out early on and it's like, okay, yeah, cool, let's do this. And then like I had a retreat that came up, so I took some time to myself, and now I'm like, okay, like I want to get back into this and just And it's interesting you said about building the community and like just like talking to people, because I've noticed people that I've talked to that I've made connections like, yeah, let's do stuff, whatever. And other people, like we still have conversations outside of doing like the podcast stuff and the podcast episodes. Other people are just like, oh, only podcast episode, that's it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like you're not about building a community. Got it. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, just interesting like that you said that, and it kind of just popped off that information where it's like, oh, these are my people, like even though I'm not close in proximity, but still it's these are people to start building a extended relationship with, where it's like we may not be in the same area to hang out and all that stuff, but it's still people to build a community with and still talk to, and like you said, kind of creepily stalk whatever, just like, okay, cool, like what are you doing, like what are you about, and just to kind of build that, because I'm in the same spot as you, Jackie, where it's just like, okay, like I feel like I have like this thought of like what I want to do. I'm like, I know there's people out there, and but at the same time, I also feel like the people I'm talking to are not potentially those people, or at least the people I'm talking to online may not be those people, but it's like, okay, finding those people, or talking to people, listening to people, and like, okay, what is that thing really, like beside what I think it is, but what is that thing really that I'm talking to people about, or that people are needing help with, or whatever, just help me figure out also too, like where I'm eventually going with my podcast stuff and what I'm doing. Cause I know for me, that's still kind of a up in the air. I'm not exactly sure, but it's just like, okay, cool. Like I know that I have a passion about actually wanting to talk about, you know, the fact that we all have these thoughts sometimes of feeling broken, but the deeper seed is that we all really want to have that freaking success. We know that we're capable of it, but it's like there's something that we're just stuck on in that current season of our life. And how do we get past that shift, so I feel you, Jackie, on what you're going through as well, even though it's completely different, but it's same.
Yeah, it's honestly looking up events and going to them, like, or attending virtual events and being very active in the chats. Like if you're not around, like people will be like, oh, but that doesn't happen in my town. I'm like, I totally get you. Online space is vast. Like you can go into these community events and you can be very active in the chats. Like majority of my friends don't, like my closest friends do not live in Tampa. Like I met them through events. I met them through masterminds. I met them at conferences. Like that's what I do. I met people that like in passing, collaborations came, like things like that. You have no idea what connections are going to come, but they cannot find you from your office. Like they're not going to come to you unless you're someone like, I don't know, Gabby Bernstein, or someone that's already built up these high profiles and they're seeking these connections because you're someone that's searchable. I'm not even that, like, we're just not those type. Like we have to put ourselves in these things where it's like, you have to make yourself searchable. You have to create your credentials. You have to put yourself in the world so people then start to seek you out. And so it's just kind of getting out of our orbit of just like, oh, I'm just going to post on the internet and hope someone one day finds me. And it's like, I really wish that's how it works. That's not how it works. It's how can you start to go, especially if you're feeling like, oh, I don't know my audience yet. It's like, then go create it. Go find what your audience is and sit at those tables and listen. That's what I did last night. I was the youngest person in the room. I was surrounded by all these very, very successful women, and some part of my business that I'm playing with is like, oh, like what if I open an agency? Like I helped people that had these, offside businesses. What if I actually created their brand for them online and like did this whole thing? So I'm sitting at these tables listening to these women with this exact problem to figure out, is this like obvious? Like they're sitting there being like, oh, you could fix my problem. I'm like, I definitely could. Like, do I want to take on this type of work? Like, is this not a thing? But I could hear your problems. I could hear what they're going through, especially with like the 40 range kind of world where it's like, they're not so in the tech area that we grew up on and things like that. And so it's just, get invited to these places, put yourself in these situations, study people that are doing what you want to do online. Like look at, communication experts. Who is it? Mark Groves, right? Like he literally says that's what he is, a human connection specialist. He was like my breakup podcast guru. And so but he calls himself a human connection expert. He talks all about this stuff, all about communication. Study his comment section. Study what he is like for podcasts for you to talk about. Just go look what he is doing and then see how that applies. Like, oh, okay. And see how you can put your own spin on it. But he's already done the research for you. Use his research.
Okay.
And then when you start to get more and more established with like, oh, how can I put my unique spin on this? How can I show my unique genius on this? How can I do these things? But at the end of the day, no one has a unique sauce. No one's doing anything that's like out of this world or innovative yet. It's just you have a million ideas and you heard someone say it a million times, but there's something when you're listening, you're like, yeah, but I would do it this way. That's what then
Yeah.
you spend.
Yeah, there's no unique message, but there's a unique messenger, and I'm the messenger. So the message has been said 1,000 times. It's just that right person, the right place, the right vibe that you say it, and someone actually goes, "Oh, wow, I like the fact that you said that."
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of like where I'm at, just kind of absorbing and like diving into the stuff on school and things like that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. How are you feeling with like podcasts, launching content? Like, where are you at with everything?
Um, Content, I think I've been I think I'm doing better. I know I can still be doing better, but I'm definitely progressing. I know that I'm currently relying on reels, to creating reels from the actual like the recorded episodes, and then I'm just using Chat Daddy to like kind of help me go through that, and like still learning that and just like fine tuning and basically like asking questions. If like that doesn't feel right, I just keep asking more questions to like get it to sound better, for more of what I want that one whatever it is that I'm trying to portray in that reel, like just keep fine tuning it before I post it. But I haven't been spending a lot of time. Like I kind of limit myself. I'm like, okay, this doesn't need to be an all day thing. Like let me just sit down and
Yeah.
I think the last one I did was like maybe I sat down for an hour, and that was more than just creating it. There was just a little bit more that was done in there. So just kind of narrowing down my time that I'm spending. I'm feeling better, but I know that I'm still kind of, I guess, also not sure like what I'm talking about if I don't have that like stuff from my podcast episodes. Like I think it's like that subtle, like I feel like it doesn't relate, but at the same time like stuff does relate, and I'm like I should just post it and who cares, in a sense. Like kind of like you say, fuck around and find out. Just who cares if I post something and it doesn't resonate or whatever the case is. Just stop thinking so much and just post shit and see what happens, because you never know, something off the wall might catch.
Yeah. And it's just how much value can you provide? Like you're at
Yeah.
the very beginning stages of growing your feed, so it's like you want to provide the value. Something is stated in the reel, then you can make a graphic about it, and then you can make it like a shareable clip about it, and then it's just like you want to really look at what are the different ways of bringing texture and creativity to the way that you're delivering your message that provides value to your audience. And so just looking, like, it doesn't need to be so overthought because you're a podcast. So even with podcasting, like you don't want to get so lost up in Chat Daddy because there's a unique way that you say certain things. And so
Yeah.
I don't know if you do this, but I listen back to every one of my podcasts. And
Yeah.
yes, I use AI to do my clips for certain things, but I listen back to my podcast because I'm looking for those hooks. I'm looking for those one-liners that I say that hit me. And so it's usually when I'm doing cardio at the gym, I'm literally listening to myself, and then I'm taking note of the one-liners that I've said, and then I will make content about that. I will teach on that. I will reinforce that. And I'm like, that's fucking good. And like that becomes the tone that now you guys pay me for, right? Like that's the thing. It's all like, honestly, it's like my playback tapes, right? Like from sports, it's like I'm watching what's happening. So I highly encourage you to do that. If you're like, oh, I don't like know what to post, or I don't know what you do long form content. So being lost on, oh, I don't know what to post, or like all these kind of things, it's like, no, you just have to listen to your tape because you will have a month's worth from one episode if you're listening. Like there's ways of doing it where you're just like listening, you're like, that's a line, that's a line, that's a line. Oh, I could spin that to a story. That's a graphic. That's a thing. Just listen and start to take notes on yourself, just like you would, or just like someone else would that is listening to you. And you probably have a month's worth of content from one episode.
Yeah, so I think that's where I'm like definitely would like to become better at, is finding those one line things and figuring out what the heck to do with them.
Yeah. I mean, you can make graphics, you could put hooks on reels, right? Like, putting, again, you run a podcast. So it's like, and your face is on your podcast. So it's like, I said this last time, I want to see more of you, how you're applying it. Build people, especially because you want to build community. You got to be of the world. You got to show people who you are. You got to bring that personal to your brand to invite people into this version, and then show community, asking questions, doing polls, like making things in that way.
Okay, that's good info.
Do you want to make a comment? Eddie goes, can I make a comment? What do you want to say?
Sorry.
What do you want to say?
What helped me the most growing my business from 0 to 30K a month? It was blogging everything from the beginning. Like even sitting down on my room, even going to the gym, even I had this feeling that's where people are truly going to relate, and then in the future
Yeah.
it's gonna have a lot of success.
Yeah, it's like selling people into your story, right? Like that's what you become the authority. It's the same thing for me. It's I documented pre-housewife fair. I documented and shared with everyone my dating journey of like going through a fucking hell of a heartbreak. And I was like, fuck this. I actually realized I have no idea how to do certain things. I'm gonna go on this whole somatic journey, this whole journey of learning for the best of the best and sharing this. And who wants to come along with me? Because at the end of the day, you got to be a 0.5 mile ahead. And like that blew my podcast up. That blew like I still my podcast. I mean, you guys listen. Hopefully, it's like I tell you, like I'm just 0.5 mile ahead, but I'm telling you about like it's my vulnerable space. Like I'm bringing you into my life. I am talking about the things like I'm with context and privacy, of course, but like the real raw emotion. And so if you can document the personal side of things versus solely education and being able to bring people along on this journey and bringing more of you to your page, that's how you're going to get that growth, because people want to feel connected to you. And if they feel like you're just marketing and like posting to post, like you're an advertisement on the side of the highway, they're not buying into the movement, the mission, the community, the things that I know that are very important to you. So being able to be like, this is how I'm working on my communication this week. These are the things like worked on my communication and this happened. Like use the thing that really helped with my business is I started to see before I started talking about marketing, I saw a bunch of people talking about business and how they were marketing themselves on social media, because business is very big. It's a big coaching industry. Like business is like the thing, right? And so I started to look at that and I was like, how can I spin this for dating? So you could do the same things. How can I spin this for communication? How can I spin this for this week's topic? What is going viral? What are people using? What are people engaging in? When I'm looking at someone's content, it's making me feel connected to them. What did they just say or do? And how can I replicate that so I can make my audience feel that? It's just, instead of just consuming culture to like how we're doing it, like you have a phone that is filled with market research. It's just knowing how to use that tool. This is why I don't like social media anymore, because I literally don't know how to fucking use it for enjoyment purposes. It's like everything is marketing research. And so like being able to use this stuff, like you have so many sources in your hand to be able to come up with so much knowledge and so much growth and so much impact. It's just making sure it's in a strategic way.
Definitely makes sense. Thank you. Tell Eddie I said thank you for him sharing as well. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
Yeah. That does make a lot of sense, because I feel like I have little things that are now kind of like turning in my head a little bit. So I appreciate all those shares.
Yeah. And drop any questions, anything inside of school, like what you want support on, if like anything you like clips or something like that, just like we're here. Like you have an audience in school that can give you live feedback on things. Use it. That's
Okay.
how I want this space to be used, is like drop a piece of content and be like, give me your fucking feedback, rip me alive. Like that's what Steph and I do. That's how we got, it's one of the reasons why is like we got really close, because we would just drop content to each other and we're like, run it, rip me alive and tell me how you feel. And we just like got really good at content because we had that. So like use the space that's provided that you guys have.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Emily.
Hey.
Hi, Emily.
Sorry, this is only the second call, so I need a reframe on what are the things I'm supposed to touch on.
Yes. So what are you celebrating? What are you learning? And then how can I support you?
Okay, what am I celebrating? Well, in my like career, which is it's not corporate at all. It's like literally online internet marketing world still. But we just launched our own offer and did our own event for it. So currently running a sales team, halfway to goal, 6 figures in the door so far. So looking good there. Just got back from Tennessee from being in person and like watching the founders be on stage for themselves for the first time. And that was like really, really cool. So that's what I'm celebrating. You said, what am I learning?
Yes.
Okay, what am I learning? Well, I'm diving into the like academy and like trying to watch all the videos. I basically like just got back like 2 days ago, so I just started last night. But I'm really trying to learn and hone in on, and this might feed into a question, but really trying to learn and hone in on what exactly are like my, I guess, pillars, or how do I want to present myself as a brand on Instagram, on Facebook. Like my industry with my job runs heavily on Facebook, totally different type of content style than Instagram, right? But I know that I can, like you guys were just talking about podcasting style and all of that. I run so many training calls, like I can just go back and like get content from them. Like they're all recorded, you know, and like same thing. And just like you were saying, spin off topics and all of that. So I think I'm just kind of like trying to unlearn what I knew in the past about creating content, and like over giving and being overly vulnerable and open and like all of that, and trying to relearn like a new way of doing it.
Yeah.
And I guess so that takes me to my question, which might be rudimentary, but that's just where I'm at right now. Is like I want to sell my retreats, and like my ultimate goal is building a homestead and being able to monetize the land in multiple different ways via letting other people host their retreats there, me hosting my retreats there, Airbnb-ing out spots, like tiny homes on the land and all of that. And so a big value of mine is connection and also leadership. And I'm trying to figure out like how to, yeah, just I guess how to position myself and how to mix all of that into a brand, like how to create content out of that, since I don't yet have the land and all of those things. Like, do I take them on the journey of the process of doing that over the next 6 months? Like, I just don't know what necessarily that looks like.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. That's not even really a question, but I think you get me.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. One, I love this, celebrating you, the events, all the things. Like that's absolutely extraordinary and also so exciting just to, like see something come to life and like to see that in person. It's an extraordinary experience. I love that for you. Okay. Sorry, I almost died. When it comes to documenting,
It's full.
I'm just kidding. It's just a really abrupt stop. When it comes to doing the homestead, right? So on the homestead, you want to curate a space to host retreats and like have people use the space. So you would sell the space eventually, like sell spaces at the space for people to use.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like collaboration, partnership opportunities. Mhm.
Right. And so how I would start to do it in my personal life is I would start to go do that with other people, like go to their homesteads and like start to partner, like collaborate with people that are already doing that to see they've done it, how they grew it, what they would never do again, and how they did those things. And then I would definitely market it on social media of showing the process of going about the land, how you want to look, and then also how you're incorporating those mindsets in your current life. Like there's so many humans, especially now with everything, it's like they had success, they did whatever, and they're like, now I want to get away. And now I just want to live in like these things. And it's like documenting that whole journey, sharing those whole things, and then really putting into practice that community aspect. Like whether that is, taking your phone and documenting when you're on the land and when you're in certain elements, when you're doing certain things. I would go put myself in those positions and document that whole journey. Do you
Okay.
have people in your industry that are doing what you do?
There is in terms of like building a homestead.
Yeah.
You're asking? Okay. There's a homestead that I follow specifically, like one that I've been following closely since like they started like 4 years ago. And I have their course, which basically outlines all of it, how to monetize the land in 30 days, like all of that. Oh, did we lose her?
Ooh, no. We're good.
You can hear me? Okay. So, but they're in
Yeah,
Canada. Oh, are you back?
Okay. Yes.
So they're in
They're in
Canada.
Canada is where I left off.
Okay, yeah. So they're over there. I don't really have anyone like in my immediate network that already is at that point. Like I have a friend that has land that's close to me, That's actually one of the people that's going to help me like build things out because he can actually create lakes and everything. He's a plumber, but he knows all this other stuff. And so I have
Yeah.
friends that all have the skills that are going to come together for the homestead. But I don't necessarily have like a location that I can go and visit, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. Yeah, that was for like documentation purposes and like talking about the process, things like that. You can talk about that kind of stuff in case people don't know. But honestly, the thing that's coming fresh to me is like running in-person events in some type of way, like making sure you're attending a lot of in-person events, which sounds like you already are, but like hosting some type of thing because community is going to be a big thing. And then when you do have the land, like, yes, when you have the land, there's one part of your business that then you can work on, but you're not there yet. Right. So you have to think of like what would lead up to the success of that launch when that happens. It's working your way backwards. And that can look different for everyone, but like I would do a little staircase draw out of this of like what actually has to happen for the individual to be ready, who would need spaces like that, like what type of humans are looking for land and event stuff and like that type of stuff. It's like who would be those types of humans? Okay, how can I start to curate events? How can I start to curate content? How can I curate some type of thing that is an easy sell for them now, so when the big thing comes you have the space to give it to them? And so it could even be something around like, oh, I have you host events or something, and then like you're teaching people how to host events. Like it sounds like you kind of know how to do that. So it's like putting these things in place, just starting to look at, okay, yes, the homestead is the end game, but for now, because we don't have the land yet, what can you sell them? Like, what is a thing that you can invite people into and start to create a hot audience and a movement that people get behind? Like, what's the tribe? What's the movement? What's the identity that they are now claiming for themselves? That's what you want to sell people into, so that when you have the land, you're like, finally, here it is. And you can present them with that opportunity.
Okay, that makes sense. So create like a front end, like low ticket offer essentially, and just forming more of what is the identity of the group, what value can I offer them currently, and it's still coming to me to like try to just share the process with them. So
Yeah.
like I could do like BTS type stuff, even just me like land
Yeah.
search, like things like that. Um,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. In terms of like type of, I don't know if I have like an actual question forming around this, but like as an example, I feel like your content is kind of like mini podcasts on Instagram, right?
Mhm.
Like you do a lot of like talking head videos, like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
How did you figure out what landed? Was it all just trial and error in terms of like what landed with your audience, and how did you base it off of like what felt good to you, what they were reacting on, if it meshed with like the type of information you're putting out, like how did you come about that?
So I teach this in module D in drive results. So I teach you about KPI insights and things like that and how to go about this whole thing, because at the end of the day, it is a lot of trial and error. But again, it goes back to I studied a shit ton of people in my industry that were already doing what I was doing. But when I was watching it, I was like, yeah, I get you, but that's generic as shit. And this is how I actually believe it to be true. But that is working and people believe it. So I'm going to use hooks like that. And then I'm going to hit them where it's actually how I believe it, how I see it. And doing something that's radically different. I like talking about, so like the thing when I would think about dating, like the thing that I kept saying, because everyone kept saying, oh, you need to be more feminine. I was like, no. Things and it's like be less like what the fuck up. I mean, I will be Are we back? Are we back? I wonder if I turn my video off, if this will be better.
it's definitely better with like audio.
Yes,
I
okay,
think
we'll do that.
what the last thing I really understood was like you started talking off the line of like finding the key people um to study in your industry and then taking their generic hooks, turning it into more specific to your thoughts. And then I think we started losing you around there.
Okay, perfect. That's kind of just what I was riffing on, is like doing things that way. And then I started to look at my KPIs. So I started to look at my insights. I started looking at my shares. I started noticing what DMs and comments were happening and what was taking off with what. And that's how that all worked. It was a trial period. I gave myself 90 days without hyperventilating, thinking like, in a week, it's going to work. It's like, no, I went through like I even had Cassandra, my assistant, go through, and she went through like all of Matthew Hussey's work. She went through all of Monica Yates's work. She went through who else? John Weiland's work, and like different types of people that were leading in the dating industry, and just wrote me what people were saying in the comment section. And then in the comment section, I literally just used what words people were already saying and then made content around that.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay. So
Stalk the shit out of everyone.
yeah, right. It's like that little like website where it gives you the whole thought map on everything, except it's just more real, like in the moment. I feel like that's easier for me to comprehend with the given context of the post and everything. So I guess that brings me to my next question, or I guess just like what's coming up for me is I think my fear is like putting out content that, as you say, is kind of just like fluffy, or like people are just like not necessarily fluffy, because I've always had really bold opinionated posts, but they don't make people buy. Like they just build community, but not enough to where like I don't feel pressured to like discount my retreats and like try to like, you know, have to reduce my integrity around value and things like that in order to get people in the door. So like how do I avoid, or in what part of the training should I go to learn those pieces?
That one hasn't come out yet because that's going to be when I teach about content. So that hasn't come out yet, but I will teach you on it now. So there's different types of content where you do have to provide value, where it is kind of generic. You're teaching people something and you're selling them into something and you're highlighting the gap. So the way that how my content converts so well is because I really know my audience and I know, hey, this is where you're at and this is where you want to go. And here's the change you have to make, right? Like for me, when I was doing all the branding stuff that you guys jumped in on, I'm saying, hey, you really want to convert your clients online, you want to do these things. It's a reason, because your brand is not strong. And that is my core belief, right? If you don't have that, this is what I teach you in my offer, versus just sharing what I think about branding and my opinions. Like I definitely did that because that's why a lot of people do hire me as like off the cuff shit that I say. But it's like, but I also highlight that gap and then provide value. And that's part of my methods, right? Then in that statement, I'm sitting there saying, and here's what I would do. You're going to see this in my post today when I talk about funnels. I talk about the reason, actually, I can read it to you, what I wrote down for an actual example of this, because I haven't posted it yet, but I was working on it. And so what the reel is going to say, the reason you're not seeing consistent sales as we step into the holiday season is because your sales systems are as scattered as your endless to-do list, right? Because that's what I hear from everyone. I have so much to-do list. I have nothing ever. I'm like, that is exactly why you're not making money. Like, and you don't have a sales system and it's scattered, right? And it's all these different ideas. And I get into the topic around like people that say, I have so much in my product suite. I have all these kind of things, blah, blah, blah. And so in the caption, I'm explaining the story. I'm sitting here saying, you know, that feeling when you're just this close to a breakthrough, you've been putting in the hours, posting regularly, you've seen some sales, but still feels like you're hitting the cap of everything, like an invisible ceiling that won't be judged. There's some more things to it. And then I say, and here's what you need. And so I talk about mind-blowing lead magnet, automated customer journey, clear CTA. The fix to this, comment branding. Right? So I'm highlighting the gap. I'm telling you what you need. I'm not telling you exactly how to do what you need. I'm telling you what you need. And then I have a training that shows you how to do that. Does that make more sense?
Yes. highlight the gap by explaining their feeling and prescribing the solution.
Exactly. And then giving them, hey, if these are the things that you're working on, message me, message me, message me, message me.
CTA.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I can put in the when we get parked and I get into the room, I can put my little like script of how I create my captions. Like I go off the cuff sometimes because I do intuitively write, but when I'm doing kind of run of the mill viral content, there is a script that I kind of follow that makes these kind of things. So I can put that in the school chat for you guys if that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be super, super helpful. I need to just get back out of my comfort zone and start posting something, anything.
Yeah, that's
You
it. Where it's
know?
like, it's not gonna be perfect. Like it's might be run of the mill. It might not be perfect. It might not be like, holy shit, this is mind blowing and so unique. But it's like, don't overthink it, because the reason I even thought of like certain bold statements, like that's your personality. That's why people are gonna pay you. That's why they want to be around you, is because you're highlighting your personality. So put that stuff in your content and like just think about that, where it's like, what is the reason why my clients aren't getting results for whatever it is that they want to achieve? Okay, let me pump that out there. Let me make a graphic about that. Let me say something as a reel. Like it doesn't have to be, so big. It's just we got to get you back out there pumping out content.
Yes. Thank you.
Of course. Are there any other questions, my dears?
That's all I got
That's it.
for now.
All right. Well, anything comes up, drop it in school. Y'all know the run of the game. Once I get to the hotel, I will put that into school. So you guys have that little outline. And there will be a program coming that I'm teaching you all the things about this. But yeah, I got you. You're amazing. You're beautiful. You're lovely. You're all the things. Thank you for accompanying me on this nice little car ride to Miami.
Appreciate you, Clara.
Yeah.
Have a safe drive and a good trip.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, y'all.
Thanks. You too. See ya.
Bye.